Hi, it's Tammy again. Apparently the guys wanted me to answer some questions that might help you all understand a little bit more about the diagnosis, pre-diagnosis of DID, at least in our lives. So I'm going to let Bob start.
Okay, so we'd like to talk about identifying it, like before the diagnosis. Was there anything strange in my behavior?
Well, let me start by saying we were co-workers at one point. We weren't really interested in dating or anything, but when we were co-workers, I guess the person now, I always called him Bob, but the person we now know as Bill, Bill was out at work. And early on, I identified that that he was a Gemini right away. And he said, well, how do you know that? And I said, because you're two-faced. You have two very distinct sides to you. Little did I know that he had DID. But he had a real worker side, and then a little bit more like friendly and humorous side. So, and I mean serious worker, and then pretty lighthearted. Needless to say, shortly after right around the time we got together, of course, like I said, then Bob was created. So they had an experience all together when, like I said, they all came out front at the same time, and they all thought they heard God talking to them, and at that time they converged, so to speak. And then, we remained friends, and then shortly after we got together. That was about a year or so of knowing him. And then all of a sudden, Bob would have these catatonic states. He'd just go into a catatonia. And then all of a sudden, another entity, we'll just say, would come out. And that was Gabriel. And at the time, I just thought there's any number of explanations, but one of them was that possibility that he was a medium. The reason I say that is because Gabriel had a lot of short, premonitory statements that he would say, and then he'd go in a catatonia, and then Bob would come back. And so that was pretty routine, actually. This went on for a great many years. Gabriel, as time went by, spent more and more time in the body, but his presence was always dramatic. When they would switch, quote unquote, it wasn't, I didn't know it was switching. He would just literally pass out. And then when he woke up, he was Gabriel. So we believed for a great many years, like I said, that either Gabriel was an angel, or Gabriel coming through his body and just using his body for whatever, or Gabriel, or he was a medium for a spirit named Gabriel. There was any number of explanations, but needless to say, that was how it started. And then
Did either one of us know about DID or
no? There
multiple personality disorder? Or?
No, we didn't know. We didn't even know what DID was.
So when we decided that there was something weird going on, that psychological help needed to be sought. How obvious was it when they diagnosed us with DID? How easy was it to look back and go, oh my God, that's what it is?
Yeah, that pretty much fits it. I think when we finally figured out, like I said before in the last video, that a catastrophic event happened in our relationship, well, that was when Jacques actually emerged, and then I was not even aware of Jacques for quite some time after Jacques actually emerged. But then he, at the time, he thought he was a he, but it's actually she now. He talked to me, and there was a lot of linguistical issues, and Jacques genuinely believed that he was a different soul inside this old person's body. And it wasn't that hard to fathom for him, because everybody thought that Gabriel was a different soul inside, you know, sometimes residing in that body. So they all genuinely believed they were just different souls. And so that's why Jacques initially believed the way that Jacques believed and tried to get another body. I didn't. By that time, we had already, once Jacques presented himself at the time, we realized that it was something much, much different than being a medium. And that was when they had their first psychotic break and ended up in the hospital and required actual, like, psychological help and diagnosis.
And long-term care, it wasn't 4 weeks?
Actually, in the hospital, it was somewhere around a week that they were actually hospitalized. Immediately after that, we went to a psychologist for about 2 years, and it was pretty intense. Psychology, it was seeing the therapist 3 times a week, and then once for groups. And I even went to group therapy thinking it might help me, but in the end it really didn't help me much. It's very difficult for other people to understand what I was going through, because there are very few people out there that have dissociative identity disorder, and therefore it's also difficult to treat the spouses or the loved ones of those people. Because of the complexity of the disorder.
Mm-hmm. So after the diagnosis, everything got a lot easier to understand over time?
Things became very clear, and in retrospect, it was much easier for me to identify, you know, I saw these behaviors in Bob. I saw these behaviors in Bob. And what I've, you know, piece by piece and year after year, have come to the conclusion that, you know, there were very specific characteristics of Bob. Bob was always very multifaceted. He could be extremely logical and intellectual. And it was fascinating to listen to him talk about theories and ideas and hypotheses. And I came to find out later, in the last couple of years, that was V. V is the smart one. And V also has his own sets of memories, you know, and came from time to time.